Tonight on Mississippi Insight, a dangerous discovery, vaping products laced with synthetic CBD. And that's not all. Tonight, the head of State Narcotics Bureau tells us why we need to be concerned. And the race for Transportation Commissioner. Two men running for the Central District share their plans for the state's infrastructure. Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with that dangerous discovery. New studies found spiked CBD in vaping products across the state, even fentanyl. To talk about this is Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics Director John Dowdy. And John, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. Kind
of talk to us a little bit about synthetic CBD. What is it and why can it be so dangerous?
Well, you know, what we're seeing right now is a big increase in the amount of vaping products that are available out there on the market. Ultimately, through information that we've obtained during investigations, we've found that these products, a lot of them are being laced with other drugs or not even the drugs that are labeled on the product. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, what we have found is anything from THC in its purest form to liquid spice, which is a synthetic marijuana, and even fentanyl in some instances in some of these products.
Why is it so popular? Why are so many young people using these products?
You know, I wish I knew the answer. It's almost a trendy thing, a fad type thing. What's concerning from a public safety standpoint and a public health standpoint is the fact that we're seeing a larger number of high school and middle school kids starting to use these products. And it's particularly troubling when we get reports from other law enforcement agencies in the state where they bust somebody for selling THC vape pens to high school kids, which happened in Hancock County a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, not only are we having to worry about the adults, but now we're having to worry about our high school and junior high age kids getting their hands on this. And you know, we've had the first case of lung-related illness reported by the Department of Health. We're looking into the possibility of some other issues related to individuals utilizing the vaping devices. And the problem is there is no quality control. And I'm not trying to disparage the industry, but a lot of the products that people can acquire from a gas station or a convenience store, there is no quality control. So if you go in there and you buy one of these products, you have no idea what you're getting.
And so what do you think needs to happen? Does the government need to get more involved in regulating this, or how do you see this going forward?
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be a regulatory framework put in place. And you know, most of the time you hope that the federal government is going to step in and do something to help with the problem. Most of the consumer products that are out there are regulated by some governmental entity. At this point, when you start talking about vaping devices or even CBD products, there is no government oversight on that. And that's why we've been talking about this for a while, and that's why we continue to urge the public that, you know, you really need to do research in the product that you're acquiring, because we have found repeatedly over the last couple of years that products we've acquired from convenience stores or other locations aren't even the product that's labeled on the package, or they contain some illicit substance.
Yeah, well, what's the difference between the synthetic marijuana and the natural form?
Well, it gives the same basic high. Mm-hmm. You know, the synthetic is a chemical that is manufactured in a lab and then generally is sprayed on some type of a leafy substance. And what we had seen was that most of the time individuals that were using spice were smoking it like they would say a blunt. Mm-hmm. There's really no difference in terms of the intoxication and the high that an individual gets from it, but one's just in a chemical form and one is the natural plant.
How much of a problem have you found of the synthetic in shops and stuff? How much have we seen
pretty significant. We ran an operation last year. We targeted some stores in Rankin County and one in Hinds County. Through that investigation, we seized about 22,000 dosage units of vaping oils. Mm-hmm. All 22,000 of those were liquid spice.
How are stores getting away with this, and how are they able to
well, there's no oversight, Byron. I mean, there is absolutely no oversight. It would require my agency, which is already taxed, and you know, other law enforcement agencies that have other issues to deal with, to, you know, randomly go in and pull these samples and do some type of testing. And that's why I believe that there's a necessity for some type of regulatory oversight, because if these people are going to be selling a product here in Mississippi, we need to know that the product they're selling is not going to be harmful to an individual. And you know, it's basically them operating under the radar, because there's just not enough manpower to be able to go out there and police this at this point.
What is your message to young people, or even to parents of young people?
You know, kids are going to be kids, and they're going to experiment, they're going to try, but you know, what I would tell a young person that's contemplating the possibility of utilizing a vaping device, you have absolutely no idea what you're getting and what you're putting into your body. And you know, just on a chance, you could get a product that ultimately is going to put you in the hospital, put you in a coma, or worst case scenario, cause you to die. You know, if I'm talking to a mom and dad, I'm going to tell them, you need to be knowing what your kids are doing, and looking at the car and finding out what they're dealing with. You talk to school administrators, principals, teachers all across the state, they tell you this is a major problem in every high school in Mississippi, and unfortunately it's starting to become a major problem in just about every middle school. And so it's something we definitely are going to have to address.
All right, thank you. John Dowdy, Director of the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, thank you very much for joining us. All right, and thank you. And coming up when we come back, Gerald Harris and the battle for Transportation Commissioner. We'll be right back. All statewide seats are on the ballot in the November election, and there's a battle for Transportation Commissioner in the Central District. Republican Mayor Butch Lee and Democratic State Senator Willie Simmons are running for the seat being vacated by retiring Dick Hall. Our Gerald Harris spoke with both candidates.
That's right. I'm joined by Brandon's Mayor Butch Lee, who's trying to be the next Transportation Commissioner for the Central District. He's running on the Republican ticket. Great to have you here. The first question should be the easiest question, and that is, why do you want to be Transportation Commissioner?
Obviously, I think everybody deserves to have safe highways to ride on, and we're approaching a point in time where our bridges and roads are becoming dilapidated and deteriorated. And while there has been work done at the Capitol to address some of that with funding, it's kind of a step in the right direction, but we've got a lot further to go.
And let's talk about that. It was a special session where a lot of money was allocated to roads, bridges, and things of that nature. Are you supportive of that, and is that enough, or can we do more? Yes,
as a mayor, I can tell you House Bill 1 began to address that, and it took basically 35% of the use fund, which is the internet sales tax fund, and dedicated it to local government. So 5% of that went to the local state bridge program that the Office of State Aid runs, 15% went to counties, and 15% went to cities, and that helps. And that's part of the drum that I'm beating. If our state leaders understand that local government needs infrastructure dollars, then the obvious thing stands out. Why don't we take the other 65% and dedicate that to our state infrastructure, roads and bridges? And it's sorely needed, and I think it's an easy step to take. That can be accomplished without a tax increase.
Part of your job as commissioner is convincing enough legislatures and the leaders at the Capitol that we need to focus on our roads and bridges and not do it in a special session, if you will. This is a complaint that the current commissioner, Dick Hall, has had, is trying to grab the ears of legislators. How are you going to do that, and how are you going to approach the job knowing that you have to convince legislators to listen to you?
A big part of that is relationships, and a bigger part of it is to get it down to the level where it means something to the local person that's elected at the legislative level, whether that's a House of Representatives or a Senate. Now, we're about to enter a time where a new lieutenant governor and somewhere between 15 and 18 new senators are going to step in on the Senate side. I think it's in the 30s on the House side. So there'll be a kind of a clean slate to begin again to build those relationships and begin to talk about what's happening in your district that we need to improve. And I think you'll find that it's all over the state. It's not local in one county or another. We can go back and forth. I like to use counties like Hinds County and Jones County, Republican County and Democratic County. They both have similar problems with bridges and roads. So there's a wealth of work that needs to be done out there, and the funding dollars that exist today are going as far as they can go. We need to go further because there's an element of this conversation that's been lost, and that is our aging infrastructure. Our bridges, in about 8 to 10 years, we're going to have over 1,200 bridges that are over 90 years old. Lifespan of a modern bridge is supposed to be about 75 years. Of a timber pile bridge is about 35 years. And that's kind of how I got into this to begin with. And I find that many other mayors are in the same situation that I am in Brandon, and the city of Brandon is in, just like the city of Jackson, city of Greenville, Yazoo City, Meridian. You go right down the line. All of our municipalities have state roads and bridges in them. And the conversation is not, in this election cycle, has been like we fixed this in the past. Well, we've taken steps toward it, but we haven't begun to fix it yet. And it's a big body of work.
Hot button issue for commissioners, especially transportation commissioners. Would you support and push for a gas tax next legislative session if you're elected?
I would push for any and all funding to all levels, and that would include a gas tax. But I look at that a little bit differently. As coming out from a mayor's perspective, running a budget and running a city, you can't take bond money and put it toward maintenance. And that's really the big issue of the day. There's two issues out there. One is deteriorating maintenance of highways, where you need recurring revenue to fix that. I could agree to a gas tax if it was used for bond money to fix bridges.
Last question, what separates you from your opponent come November?
I come from a public safety background, retired from the fire service from the State Fire Academy in 2005. Got engaged in local politics. I like to think that Brandon, everywhere I go across the state of Mississippi and elsewhere, I hear this same story since we built that amphitheater of, man, y'all got it going on in Brandon. And it's been a good board to work with and a good mayor. We've been working in unison, pulling the wagon in the same way. But we've turned the city around now to a point in time where we're going to prosper going forward. I tell our board all the time, the ball is over the cliff. Don't try to change it or pull it back, just guide it as it goes down the hill, because we're growing at a 9% population rate. We're booming. We've had $260 million worth of new homes built in Brandon just inside the city proper in the last 6 years. So we're booming, we're doing things right, and I believe that same philosophy of a public safety background and applying that to the problems that exist today will have a profound influence on our transportation system.
Thank you so much, Mayor Lee. The election day is November 5th. He's taking on Democratic nominee Willie Simmons. And now I'm joined by Democrat nominee for Transportation Commissioner in the Central District, Senator Willie Simmons. Thank you so much for joining us. The first question is the easiest question, and it's, why do you want to be Transportation Commissioner for the Central District?
Gerald, the Central District, as the state of Mississippi, has a transportation system that is falling apart, and we need good leadership in order to make it work. My experience in the Senate for 26 years and serving as chairperson of the Highways and Transportation Committee for the past 8 years has given me an opportunity to work to try and provide resources, but also to help identify the true needs of the state. And we have some tremendous needs that needs to be taken care of. And I want to use my relationship and experience to help fix that.
And speaking of your experience in the legislature, this past special session, you were influential in getting some of those pieces of legislations through. One, do you still support those decisions to pass that legislation? And two, does it solve the problem?
Does not solve the problem. Still support it because it was the beginning point. The special session gave us an opportunity to put in place a lottery, which I was the senator who led the charge to get that passed. And that's going to put monies into the infrastructure system. Also, our internet sales tax is going to add monies to that. So we came away with about a $200 million a year proposals to put into infrastructure, with half of that, 100 million of it, going to the local communities.
You're in the state legislature now. Commissioners have to come to you for funding and for ideas to improve whatever they're working on. How important is it going to be for you to have the ear of legislators, which is critical for your job as Transportation Commissioner, and getting things that you want passed and approved through the legislature?
That's what makes it so important and so unique about my candidacy and my going into that position, that I have developed relationships for 26 years. I have been on the budget committee. I have been the chairman of the appropriation committee that put the dollars together for transportation. So I know the ins and outs, but I also have the relationship with those individuals who are going to be serving in the governor's office, the lieutenant governor's office, as well as the legislators. And I will be able to work with those individuals and communicate to them the needs. One of the things that I feel good about is that we're proposing to increase the user fee at the pump because we need more money.
And that was my next question, is would you support a gas tax, user fee, some people say, to help improve the roads here in Mississippi? If so, by how much do you think?
I most definitely support it. I've been an advocate for that for the past 10 years, and I've been out on the stump even before I became a candidate, saying that we needed to do that. My proposal as the commissioner is to recommend to the legislative body, because they're the one. It is the legislators who actually have to vote to make sure that that happens. So my recommendation to them is 10 cents. If we take 10 cents, we carry it to 28. We'll be right around where the rest of the surrounding states are going to be when they get theirs, because all of the states around us, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, all of them have increased or in the process of increasing theirs. And they're going from about 26 to 30 cents a gallon. So if we added 10 cents to ours, take it to 28 cents, we'll be right in the middle of where they are. And that, every time we put a penny on, it gives us $22 million. So by adding 10 cents, we'll be talking about $220 million, which still is not enough, but it is get us a long way, and it's the best way to do it because there's a user fee.
And what separates you from your opponent come November 5th, when the voters have to go into those booths and vote?
My opponent is a good guy. I met him several months ago. But what really separates us when it comes to infrastructure and transportation is my experience, my knowledge, my relationship with those individuals at the state level in the legislative body in the Capitol, as well as the boards of supervisors and all of the counties. Because what must happen is that as commissioner, we must work and collaborate with the local government, boards of supervisors, the mayors. So my relationship with those individuals, my experience and my knowledge for the past 26 years, and especially the past 8 years, as chairman of Highways and Transportation, there's no one else on the ballot that can compare with that experience and with that relationship. So I hit the road running on day one.
And last question, how important is it to create those new relationships in the state legislature? There's going to be new members, new ideas, a new structure. It's a fresh start for many, some would say. Go ahead.
26 years of experience. We have seen new members come in and had an opportunity to get to know them and work with them over the years, and we have developed relationships with them, so we'll do the same thing. We would just walk next door to the Department of Transportation. We leave the location where we appropriate the billions of dollars to the Department of Transportation and walk into the building where we allocate it.
Thank you so much. Election day is November 5th. He's taking on Brandon's mayor, Butch Lee, on the Republican side, Mr. Willie Simmons, Senator Simmons.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Gerald.
Convention Center. This week, the City Council voted to approve emergency funds that will keep the center open and staffed for now. 12 News' Alex Love has the story.
I've been here 30 years. I was here when they started it. I was there when they cut the ribbon, and I haven't heard a damn thing.
Showing frustration, Councilman Kenneth Stokes shared his issues with Jackson Convention executives, feeling the board should fix their rates to suit locals to get more financially stable.
have as many activities as you can have by dropping the price. It's not doing us any good to have a big, pretty building that nobody utilizes.
But the reality is that Jackson's really short on money, and one of the things that really concerned me in your presentation on the current status, you obviously the immediate needs $63,000, but then the ongoing needs you've got cited here as $67,000 per month.
Though significantly lower than the original request of $131,000 needed, thanks to recent convention customers paying their bills, an extra $67,000 in ongoing needs can be costly to Jackson taxpayers, even if only temporary.
There's a time frame in which the operations are going to be as they are. We've estimated that based on where the sales tax receipts are and the operating subsidy, that would require about $67,000 a month to fund that.
The Convention Commission points to how we got here with a lack of activity centered around the convention center to keep more people, and no main hotel as originally planned to attract big conventions resulted in lack of revenue expected.
So the event mix has resulted in less conventions and trade shows and more dependence on things like consumer shows, entertainment events, banquets, and local meetings. The resulting financial results of that is that the sales tax revenue was much lower than the original projections, and that the operating subsidy was much higher than the original projection.
Well, more meetings with the mayor are on the schedule to prevent more bailouts next month, and we'll be right back. Thanks for joining us. For Gerald Harris and Alex Love, I'm Byron Brown. We'll see you next Saturday. Make it a good night.